All right, I'm going to introduce Casey now. Best-selling author, writer, culture critic, and relatively new mom. Casey Johnston, author of Lift Off, Couch to Barbell, and her newest book, A Physical Education, a journalistic exploration of the wide-ranging history, science, and psychology of strength, braided with her personal story of learning to lift weights. Please join me in welcoming back to the Ann Arbor District Library, Casey Johnston.
Hi. Hi. Hi.
Did you have lunch in Ann Arbor today?
I did.
Where did you eat lunch?
Eggies.
Okay.
Some nods. Unenthusiastic nods.
Relatively new. Iggy's
Oh, is
Eggies
it?
to
Okay.
Ann Arbor.
It was good.
Good.
I can make a recommendation for a place I don't live.
Thanks so much for joining us
Yeah.
today. Thanks for coming back
Yeah.
after 2 years.
Uh-huh.
And now your new book.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what has been, since you signed off on that final manuscript, you sent it off, what have been some of the most surprising things that have happened?
Since I sent it off. Do you mean like to production? Yeah, you must mean to production.
I mean like things happen after you've signed off on
Yeah.
your book that you're maybe in control of, maybe not in control of.
Right. The process of arranging a book tour is, I think, constantly evolving, especially post-COVID. Like, the logistics are wild, and the permissions you have to get. It's very hard to get a bookstore's attention because it's like, I think everybody knows to make the claim of like, I have 1 million followers, and it's like bookstores are so used to hearing that now, or libraries, and so that's an interesting process to get them to like open your email even, but I was able to get a bunch of them, and I've had so many great crowds. Like, I don't think the publicity team at my publisher believed that so many people would come to these events. So I'm so like honored, grateful, all of those things. I can't believe that. Like, this is like, I don't know. I'm very impressed. You might think that like a room full of people is not that many people, but like for a book, it's huge. Their big fear scenario is like, only 1 or 2 people come to your event, and they think you'll be upset, the people will be upset, the people selling the books will be upset. So it's like, for it to pan out is so big for everybody. You have no idea. So I'm so grateful for you guys for being here.
Well, you've been on stage in conversation with Roxane Gay, Alexis Madrigal,
Yeah.
Rich Reddy. That's me, by the way. Like luminaries,
Yeah.
luminaries in literature and the world. You were just in Minneapolis yesterday.
Yes.
And so what other events do you have planned so far? Do you have more booked?
There's just 2 after this. I'm going to Phoenix and then Boulder.
So a lot of travel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
There's going to be some questions related to some of that as well.
All right, great.
The last time you were here was 2023. To tell you a little personal, I've been following Casey for a while. Couch to Barbell had come out. And so I thought, perfect, let's bring you here. You had just signed to write this book.
Yes.
I was super excited.
Yeah.
So now, what was the process we'll stamp it there, 2023, you finished at the Ann Arbor District Library. Oh, I have to start this book.
Yeah.
What was the process of going through all the things that you've done and sort of arranging like how you were going to put this all together?
Yeah. So I think a lot was under the surface before I actually sold the book, because there was a whole arc of, I had a different agent. We went through a whole sale process of pitching the proposal, and no one wanted that first version of the book. I had some editor conversations, no one bought it. So I like reworked everything. And there's this big thing in publishing about like, they want to know where a book is going to be on the shelf. Is it a memoir? Is it an instructional book? Is it a self-help book? And I was like, I don't really want to slot myself into one of those categories, and it doesn't fit easily into any of them. So I think I ended up basically pitching it as like a themed book of essays. And then it sort of became more of a memoir as I worked on it. And fortunately, like the publisher was okay with that. So yeah, but it was a lot of like mining my own memories for like, what are the relevant anecdotes of lifting, or what were the significant moments, and like, how can I pin like the things that I've learned from lifting to each of those things. And that was like, sometimes you get to a point in a book where it's hard to hold the whole thing in your head. Just like there's so many moving parts, and you're trying to keep it all, like, remember what you said. It's like if you read a part and then like go to another part and read it, it's like you have to remember what's in all of the parts and like where you said things and what order you said things and like, did I say this yet? So it's a lot. I'm sorry, there's just...
No. So part of, you had added a lot of your personal memoir, your personal journey, which, again, can I get a show of hands? Who's read or listened to the book so far?
Okay.
And then who's familiar with Casey sort of for the last... Okay, so a mix of...
What a mix.
I've got some questions for you deep divers later, and then I'll touch on some of the more processed ones.
Yeah.
So you, with your personal memoir, but then you get into a lot of things with your family in this that somebody who's followed you for a while, I know you've written about a little bit, but how did that evolve as you started writing, mixing those stories?
Yeah, I think that I sort of decided or realized that, I just read a piece online that was sort of like, people don't accept stories from women if they don't kind of like involve themselves in some way, that they have to like put their personal story out there as like to deliver on some measure of authority. Like they don't trust women on topics unless they sort of stake their personal story in there. So now I'm sad to have played into that, but I do think, but I did have this.
Wait a sec.
I know I did have. Well, I just had this like intuitive sense that like I was like, I don't feel like this has the same impact if I don't sort of really explain why this was all significant to me personally. And I did used to sort of like have this misplaced sense that like lifting can solve everybody's problems if only they knew about it. But that was like for lack of really understanding why it spoke to me. Like, what was it about lifting that I liked so much, and why did I like it based on my personal background of like my relationship with my family, or work experiences that I had, or like cultural like magazines that I read, and like and I just felt like it would deliver more, or like be more legible to have my own story threaded in there, I guess.
I think you have a quote that has come out that you've said about the book. This book is about exercise, like Friday Night Lights is about football.
Yes.
So it feels like what were some of the most important things that you're hoping that readers would take away from the book in its entirety?
So I don't want to take credit for that quote. That was a Vanity Fair writer who said it sort of spontaneously in our interview. And then she included it in the piece that she wrote. And I was like, this is great, because this is like the perfect way of encapsulating it. And I never would have thought of this myself. So I cannot take credit for it at all. But I'm sorry, what was the original question? How did I conceive of the moments in the book?
What would you say were some of your goals? Like, what did you want the reader to take away ultimately from, like you said, it's not a straightforward memoir. It's not straightforward. There's science, there's exercise, there's everything.
I think that I've been thinking a lot about this more, because as it's been out there for a few months and people have read it, and they, some of them write to me and they're like, thank you for your book, loved it. I'm getting into lifting now. And I'm like, in a way, that's really great. And I don't think that's the wrong thing to do by any stretch. But I was also like, I did sort of conceive of this book as wanting it to be something that would help people understand that it, like, a different relationship between their bodies and themselves and like physical activity is possible. Like there's a different way of connecting those things that is not about the sort of like guilt, shame, restriction, or like really, guilt and shame is probably the more dominant dynamic there. And lifting for me, like, flipped a lot of the things that I thought about food and exercise on its head, which is like, felt like I always had to do more and more, eat less and less, and like always be feeling bad about what I was doing regardless of what it was. And lifting had a much more virtuous cycle of like, you're fueling your workouts, you're doing your workouts, you're resting from your workouts. And that sort of pacing and like the process really of attuning to yourself, of like, I think I write in the beginning of the book, the like atomic unit of lifting is like you do a rep or you do a set and then you're asking yourself like, how did that feel? Was that too hard? Was that too easy? Should I use more weight? How is my form? And I guess one version of reaction to that could be like too much self-scrutiny maybe, but I think that for me it was like I was so used to like pushing down my experience of whatever it was that I was doing. Especially in running, which I had been doing for a long time. But lifting, the sort of operative thing was like, how do you feel? Like that's like what the whole thing is built on. You can't figure out how to progress. You can't figure out how to feed yourself unless you're like listening to yourself. And nobody had really framed food or exercise or rest as like, you're giving yourself what you need in the way that lifting did. So like, I really appreciate that about lifting, and that really changed how I thought about things. I think you could like bring that dynamic to so many things that we don't, and instead we sort of like think the only way to have a relationship with that stuff is about guilt and shame and fear. So what I want from people to take away from the book is like, to get back to your question, is is that the dynamics between these things can be different in that way. That's what I really want people to take away, is not that you should lift, but that it's possible to have a relationship with those things based on how they make you feel, what's your experience with them, what are they bringing to your life, rather than the other way around.
In your writing, you mentioned being attuned with your body and like listening to signals and everything else, and through your exercise life journey, you've gone through with heavy cardio and restricted dieting and now lifting and getting to eat like a horse, like, and now you're a mom.
Yes.
So now you mentioned guilt and shame and body changing and everything else. Like, what has that been like, having a child, being a parent, being a mom?
Yeah.
What has that whole experience been like for you?
I think I'm lucky. Well, here's the thing that I was just saying to a friend of mine about having kids, where it's like when you sort of experience having kids, not like as a secondary effect of like you're reading about other people having kids, it feels like everything happens at once, where it's like they're having tantrums about their iPads and they are blowing out their diapers, and it's like it's all happening at the same time. But in reality, it's like the problems come and then some problems go away, new problems come up. So it's like I am in a set of problems where the baby's only 8 months old. So he does not yet have problems with like even really eating food. He's like he eats purees now, but that's, so that is a way of saying, I think it's going to be interesting to see what his relationship with like exercise and food and all of that stuff is going to be. But I think someone asked me at a stop recently, one of the other stops, like, how are you thinking about this? And I'm like, I really do think about like wanting to model a good relationship with all this stuff for him. And someone asked me last night in Minneapolis, like, how do you think about your body and being pregnant, and like, what was your relationship with it? Was it difficult? And I think it was like, there was some discomfort, I guess, with like the way your body changes, and or like, I'm not excited about this, like I'm not thrilled to like relinquish that control that you do have just as a product of like, you're not pregnant, your body's not changing in that way. But I think as I got more into it, and I think as I've gotten older too, it's like, you don't have a lot of control over your body, period. Like, you are fortunate to sort of be able to do whatever you want with your body when you're like under the age of 30, that you don't have any problems and like your health is perfect. You can eat whatever you want. And like, that's not to say that this, like, your body is some like, there's some sort of sanctity to it, that's like a crazy thing to do. It's just like the impact has not had time to accumulate. It has, by the time you're like getting older, the impacts of what you do accumulates. And I think that as I got further into being pregnant, or like more trying to like gain comfort with it, it was like, I don't have that control. And that control does not always necessarily bring me what I want in life. Like, I can have total control over, or as much control as I possibly can over my body, but that's not necessarily like what I really want from life in general. Like, and I think having a child was like so abstract to me until it happened, that it was like, it felt like I'm gambling a lot on this like experience that I don't really have any idea of how it's going to go. And I only hear bad things, I feel like now. Like, like people are pretty down on the experience of being a parent, having kids. So I was like, I think, again, like thinking about myself, I think this will be a good experience, but everyone sure is scaring me with their stories about all of this stuff. But anyway, I think I was willing to gamble on it, and now it's like I would make that choice. I would do it the exact same way 100 million times over. Like, it was such the right thing to do. Obviously, it's like, there's checks and balances to everything, but so yeah, it didn't go perfectly, like as far as the control aspect of things, but I think one thing I was also thinking last night is like the idea of broadcasting your, like, every discomfort that you feel versus like trying to show a little bit of like leadership in how you think about your body. Like, I think there's too much emphasis on like, what do I want to say? Like, not radical disclosure, but sort of like hyper disclosure on social media, where it's like you feel like you have to tell everybody about your bad feeling in order to like be honest and be, that's like the best way of relating to everybody. But I think that it's not. Like, I think we've gone too far in that direction. And as much as sometimes I wanted to, like, my reflex was like, oh, I should post about like how uncomfortable I feel being pregnant. It's like, those are not maybe not my dominant feelings. It's like, maybe the venue for those feelings is not social media, where I don't really know who's seeing it or like what the, how they're reacting to it. And that's like a better thing to, like, for friends, family, therapist, one's clergyman, or like, whatever, like, not, it's just like not something that you throw out into the universe is like it's ultimately just like sort of selfish catharsis for me instead of like helpful. That's a very long answer to that question, I know. But
that's all right. We're covering a lot of stuff here. You had touched on just a minute ago about, maybe this is a question from yesterday, about your parents, like your dad, multi-sport athlete, your mom is jumping on boulders at the end of the book, and
God
like
bless.
You come from this athletic family. You were always involved in athletics and sports. But maybe not I don't want to speak for you through the book, maybe not the healthiest goals with some of this stuff. So I know, and I'll bring up Seamus again a little bit later, also being an athlete. How do you think, 8 months is a little young to start youth soccer, but how are you thinking that you will model some of exercise and fitness and or, I don't know, what are you looking at for, like, youth sports, never play football, or, hey, let's get into this. Like, how are you, or are you just waiting a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Well, sometimes we talk about this stuff just like as a vicarious sort of thought experiment, or it's fun too. When you're married to somebody, you probably agree on a lot of stuff, and it's just so fun to be like, he's not going to play, whatever. What do they call it? Pee-wee football, or is that the right term? Pee-wee? No.
I'm Canadian. We didn't have it.
Just to be like, I don't want him to do that. And you're
Warner. It's Pop Warner.
Pop Warner. Yeah. So to be like, I don't want him to do that. And then your husband's like, me either. And then you can just sort of like bull session about like how much you don't like the idea of children playing football or whatever. But yeah, I think as far as modeling behavior, one of the things that I got into in the book that maybe was like, it was a light touch ultimately. Like, a lot of the book is about trying to balance my story with like lifting stuff, because I think writing a memoir, publishers are hesitant about memoirs if you're not a famous person and you're not like, you don't have some experience like that you're like, oh, I was like the daughter of a leader of a cult or something, a famous cult, you know.
Not like not an underground cult. It's gotta be a famous
right.
cult.
No, it's gotta be a famous headline.
Name brands like,
yes.
oh, I know them.
Yes, exactly. So, I think they tried to have some restraint about how much of my story to put in there. But a thing that I would have, like, if this book was like 600 pages long, would have written more about was like my relationship with moving around and my body and really play, like physical activity as a kid. Like, we did so much of it not thinking about like exercise and like, you got to get this much. It's like, we just went outside and like did stuff and like climbed trees, and that was like such a big part of my childhood. And like, I was not a like talented athlete in this. I was not like a star athlete, maybe, let's put it that way. I'll be nice to myself. I did not try that hard. I don't know. It was not.
Be kind to yourself.
Like,
come on.
as much as like I played a lot of sports, but I was not like, oh, we got to put her on the varsity team like as a sophomore, you know. So, but I had such a sort of like intuitive relationship with physical activity as a kid that was, I think, I realized later in the book, was so important to me, and so shaped so much of like my relationship with it now. And I had to sort of like dig my way back to that. And that was like, lifting was a big part of that, was getting back to this place of like having that relationship with my body that's not about accomplishments or like using it as a proxy for other conflicts that I'm having mentally or emotionally. So when I think about my child, that I want that to be a big part of his life. And I can kind of already tell, like, he's really squiggly. Like, he's very, I think, active already. And I just want playing outside to be being outside to like be a big part of his life, like as much as I can help or like create that for him, foster that for him, that he can play outside. Like, I don't know. That's like a kind of simple answer, but I just want play. I want like physical play to be a big part of his life. And I think that lays like a really good foundation, and not like in a way that you're like checking a box, but just that like your way of having fun can be that.
Yeah. Okay, I don't have a sense of how competitive you are. Now, again, I did very light research on Seamus, very light, but it comes up. Volleyball Magazine, top 50.
I can't believe that comes up,
Captain of the
actually.
Harvard volleyball team.
Yeah.
Assistant basketball coach at Caltech, go Beavs.
Yeah.
How competitive are the two of you with either fitness or, I don't know, texting Wordle? Like, who did Wordle better? Scrabble?
Yeah.
How competitive are you in general?
This is a fun question. Seamus is my husband, for those of you who don't know. I think we were both very competitive, intensely competitive. And I think like, I won't speak for him, but I think that like, it's tough. I'm one of 4 kids. So like, I think there's a sort of natural competitiveness that gets fostered, just like getting your parents' attention.
Where do you fall in the 4?
I'm second oldest.
Okay.
Oldest girl. So I think there's a natural thing in there of like feeling, or maybe not that natural. I think if you have like really attuned, like skilled parents, they would know that that's going to happen with lots of children and work to prevent it. But I think that like you get it can become a natural part of things that you feel like you have to, their attention has to be earned. Not even because of any particular way that they are, but just because there's not a lot of it to go around. So like you kind of need to jockey for it. So I think I am pretty competitive in a way that I think as I've gotten older, I'm like trying to correct for that impulse a little bit more. But I think that we have an interesting dynamic where, like I know I used to be competitive with my siblings about various things, and that resulted in a lot of tears in a lot of directions. But like, it's sort of fun for me and him to be competitive with each other, and we can like be, I mean, like maybe this is the sports angles, like we can be good sports about it too, and we talk about this a lot, that like, while we don't want Pop Warner football, but like team sports sort of fosters this like good sportsmanship sort of thing that I think we can both have for each other, but also like trash talk and like both know that we want to like be good at something. On that same note, he loves Scrabble, played Scrabble growing up a ton. I don't like Scrabble, but I play it with him. And he would probably say that I don't let him win, but I let him win a little bit.
Okay. Well, this is streaming live and being recorded.
Yes,
so
yes. Maybe he's watching, maybe he'll see this, and maybe he won't.
Seamus, would you like to come out now? And
who is that? Jerry. I'm like,
Jerry Springer?
Jerry Springer.
Thankfully, we don't bring the Jerry Springer vibe to the Ann Arbor District Library.
No.
Okay, I have a better sense of, as it pertains to, at least to like fitness and exercise, you seem to be a little bit more of a solitary pursuits kind. Now, maybe that's just where it sort of has shaken out. With running and then with liftings can be tricky. But have you ever had like a training buddy? Do you crave some of that, like you and Seamus pickleball duo? Like, do you crave some of the camaraderie, that sort of relationship as it pertains to exercise?
Well, the missing thing from this is like team sports, which is like somewhat harder for women to participate in than men. It's like even just sort of the skill building of it. Like Seamus has played pickup basketball for a long time, so he knows how to like go to a court and like make eye contact with a guy and be like, "Do you have five? Do you have five?" And like, and then they're like, "Yeah" or "No," like, but we have next or whatever. And it's like he knows the lingo, and he's good at basketball. But it's like, I don't know. There's like opportunities for me, but like I think I would really like to play team sports. Like I think I default to these solitary sports activities because it's just easy logistically to like just go. Like if you have to rely on somebody else to like coordinate with your schedule to go to the gym, I'm just like, I don't need like support. I'll just go.
If there's a phone tree involved?
Yes. No. That's like my nightmare. So yeah, I think I default to that just because of that. And most recently, he's been playing pickup basketball where we live now. And I'm like, I wish I could just like join. Like I've seen some girls are respectfully better than me, but not that good, but they're playing. And so I'm like, I want to play, but now it's hard with a baby where like somebody always has to be watching the baby. So maybe that'll be, I don't know, a babysitting activity at some point.
Strap the baby on and you're just set shots. It's
I know,
all just set shots.
That's a nice idea.
No jumping. So as you have progressed professionally in like tech writing, but then sort of focusing more and more and more on sort of the memoir exercise, you write about what your sort of family and friends, how they reacted when you started lifting, and now you've been doing this for a while. How have some of those relationships changed? Or when you meet, when you meet new people, like what's the reaction now to like a physical, look, you have a book. Like what's it like now versus how that sort of evolved when you were just starting out?
Yeah. I mean, I cover this a little in the book, but like I didn't tell anybody about it for a while because I was like, at first I wanted to see if anybody would notice, because I would, like, the warning was always like, you'll get bulky, like, everyone, your life's gonna be over, like, physically, and I was like, well, let's just see, and nobody noticed, but then, like, once I talked about it, everyone was, like, really into it, and they were like, whoa, like, make a muscle, like, arm wrestle me, all of this stuff, and I don't get that reaction now, but maybe just because it's not new anymore. Like I think everyone's excited when you start a new thing and they're like, tell me about it, whatever. So I think it's like now this is my thing, and like if somebody, it usually comes up in not in the category of hobbies, but it's like, what's your profession? And I'm like, I'm a writer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what about? Well, kind of like health and fitness stuff. Like, again, like, don't feel like I am good at defining it, but then eventually it comes around to like, oh, it's like strength training. And usually at that point, here's the difference. People start telling me their problems with like lifting weights, or like they want help with whatever their challenge is. Of like just earlier today, I got into a car to come from the airport, and the man who was driving the car, very lovely, told him why I was here. what my book was about, which like as soon as I did, I was like, I have to come up with a better fake answer for this and say it's about like the tax code or something, because every time this happened, I'm like honest about it, and then everyone's like, I got this thing where it's like this is my workout, but like I'm having problems. Like, so his thing was like, I'm not that consistent. I like went on vacation and I didn't work out, and I used I used the barbells, but like I want to do a workout with like push-ups or whatever. And I was just like, the car ride, if you don't know you must know from Detroit, it's a long car ride. And last time I was here, I think I will get in like a full conversation for the whole time. So I was like, I don't know how to sort of cap this off without being rude to this man. But I was sort of like, yeah, it's hard. Like it's consistency is tough, but at the same time, like consistency doesn't have to be doing it every week in, week out, same number of days. Like I stop and then start again and find myself starting over again a lot, and like that's okay. And he was either reassured by that or understood that I didn't want to continue to troubleshoot with him for an hour. So that was as far as we got. But that's the main difference, I think.
So most of these are form check questions. So I'm gonna have to skip.
You're gonna have to throw them away.
Some of these.
Yeah.
You talk about starting out at Richie's.
Yes.
Walking in, and so I don't want to make this about me. But like, I think I was a high school freshman walking into our high school gym for the first time, sweaty place with kids who were almost 18, and I was just this little guy. Like, I think people have that reaction. Do you think, since you've started writing about this, since we talked about this a little bit before, these other people are jumping in, other women are jumping in and having these journeys, like trying lifting, there's less of a stigma about it. There's more, gym bro culture is still thriving, but there's a lot of checks and balances there. Do you think that it's gotten, better or different for someone who wants to lift but doesn't have money to buy their home,
right,
like home setup? I
think it's gotten better just because there's been such a proliferation of, I hope they're like doing well and they're successful, but like inclusive gyms that are specifically like, this is not for bros who have been lifting forever. This is for people who are new to this or uncomfortable, want more instruction, are afraid that there will be like, Nazi skinheads in like the whatever, Anytime Fitness or whatever, that you can like go to these more specific places and find a welcoming environment. That's changed. So that's changed like a lot. And there's just, in New York, there were, oh my God, I think there were like there was like one gym in Brooklyn that I knew of. Maybe there were two. There was one that I knew of that was sort of specifically for like sport weightlifting, like they had platforms and everything. There were a couple like iron gyms that had the right equipment for doing like powerlifting style training, but they didn't like advertise themselves that way. And over the course of the last 10 years, there's been a lot more of them that have opened. And like, I actually saw the other day, this is huge victory for me. And they didn't do it for me, I think. But I think I saw a photo of Planet Fitness, which I'm very critical of in the book, because it's like the sort of platonic definition of a gym where it's like they know that you're not going to, like, that people are going to sign up and not go. That's like their entire goal. The gyms always look like untouched, pristine, because you like can't do very much in them. You can do cardio. There's like a football field of cardio machines, and then they have like dumbbells and they have a Smith machine, but they don't have like barbells and platforms and the stuff that like the really good free weights. But I saw a photo of a Planet Fitness where they have one of those like power racks with the plates and a barbell, a free weight barbell. So it's like they have fallen to the like to the trend, I guess, of the dominance of free weights as like having a specific contribution to health. And this is big because their whole thing was like no lunkheads, like no slamming weights and all this stuff, which is like you can't. I mean, you can like do a deadlift without like screaming and like throwing the weight down. But it does make some noise, like inherently, like you can't do the like kind of lifting that's like library, like respectfully to libraries.
Oh no, we have the deadlifting platform out there, and you have to be very quiet.
Yes. So it's hard to do quietly, but it seems like they've did the math and we're like, this is what people want, and they're giving it to, and that was not Planet Fitnesses were not like that in 2014. So.
Okay, we're in the home stretch of my questions, about 10 minutes left. So we're gonna move a little faster, and some of these are mostly for me.
Okay.
So if you feel like, I'm just kidding, hopefully you'll find these entertaining. I listened to the book, and you were the audiobook.
Yes.
And I love listening to a book read by the author, particularly if it's nonfiction. What was that like for you? Like, what was the audiobook portion of this like for you as an author?
It's interesting because there's a whole like negotiation over this with the publisher. They will get somebody else to read it. They have you test, actually. They have you do like read some of the book. I think it had to be like a minute of just like me reading, which is funny to think about failing that test. Like, what would it be like?
It's not in the author's voice.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are like bad readers, and I think sort of wooden or like can't really like have a pace, but they liked the test, went into the studio. There was like it was like a proper music recording studio, and there was a guy they had hired to be an engineer. It was a really cool guy who like engineered bands and stuff, and he at one point brought in a guitar that he had paid like $30,000 for, and it sounded awesome. But he was great, and he said I was a good reader. He was like, I don't have to give you any notes. Like, he'll sort of be on in your headphones, and like if you read a sentence weird, he'll be like, can you just do that again? But he hardly did that to me. He would like, if sometimes I like missed a word, but they budget a certain number of hours for how long they think it'll take, a certain number of days. And I think they had budgeted 7 days or something, like 7 days of 6 hours or something like that. And I did it in like 3.5. So I was like,
competitive. Check.
Yes.
Okay,
see?
you answered that question was a little while ago, but
yeah. See?
We're learning more.
Yeah.
We're learning more in this 38 minutes so far. Okay, off the beaten path workouts. You have, I know at some point you tried one where you would dunk a basketball, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you were the lift heavy, run fast workout, or if it was.
Oh yeah, I didn't make that up, but that was something that I attempted at one point. Yeah.
What other? And there are more here. Like there's the watermelon one that I think I read in your newsletter where you crush the watermelon.
Oh.
That workout specifically to be able to defeat a watermelon.
Oh my God, I don't remember there being a workout, but I remember that being a thing of, trying to break a watermelon.
The common, has there been anything that you were just like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to see what happens. Are there any like funky workouts that you've tried?
I think, well, the two things that you mentioned, it's like both of those things I didn't finish. Like I have not dunked a basketball, and it was called Run Fast, Squat Heavy, which is sort of, I was just curious like what it was like to do, because it's a workout that's entirely composed of trying to run your fastest mile and do your heaviest squat, and you're sort of like training them at the same time, and then at the end you do like a heavy squat and a mile run in the same day. And there's not a lot of combining of those two things in a training program. So it was just interesting on that front, but then I didn't finish it. And I was trying to get pregnant at the same time, and I was like, I can't be doing heavy singles when I'm like, I mean, it's something that you should be able to do, I think, like in my heart of hearts, I was like, I can't be here doing heavy singles while I'm like, it's not happening. So I had to sort of lay it to the side. I didn't really like it anyway. For whatever reason, it was bothering my knees. But anyway, what have I done that's weird? I think that a lot of the stuff that keeps things fresh for me is like just like learning about new accessories and trying them, or like sort of identifying a new weak set of muscles, and I'm like, oh, I could like bring this up a little bit, and I learn about a new accessory, and I like that excites me. Like right now I follow this program called Rise, which is made by Jason and Lauren Pack, and I subscribed to it initially because they had accessory movements that I had like never seen or heard of before, and it got me like excited to work out again, which is hard when you've been in it for 10 years. But yeah, it's just like weird stuff that feels different and can help like sort of with your deadlifts or whatever. Like for a while I was really into Nordic curls. Show of hands for Nordic curls, if you know what that is. None. Two, three, four. Okay. It's where you are on your knees, upright, and you're trying to like lower the part of your body up from your knees down to the floor and then come back up. And you can use various assistive things in order to make that happen. But it's really difficult. And but I think it really helped. Like I have like a lot of people have like underdeveloped hamstrings, sedentary, issues, and it's just fun to see that stuff like play out, and to me, fun to like see different accessories come together.
All right, you wrote about in the book competing in a competition.
Yes.
Weightlifting competition.
Powerlifting. Yep.
Sorry. Have you competed since?
No.
That was one and done?
Well, I only describe one meet. I did 3 meets altogether in my life. I think it was like, I didn't foresee another one happening like anytime soon, but then the pandemic happened, and I think that put the kibosh on meets for a couple of years. And by that time I was like, I don't think this is really like to my interest to be like training for heavy singles. Like I like lifting, but not that kind of lifting. It was but I was like, I'm so glad that I did it. And it's like the kind of thing where, in the same way you would do at 5K, people will be like, with lifting, they'll be like, oh, I can't do it yet, I'm not strong enough. But it's like, no one does that to like 5Ks. They'll just run a 5K to like complete a 5K, and like a powerlifting meet should be approached the same way, I think, So I'm glad that I did it, even though I'm not that strong, still not that strong, so.
Okay. This book, this came out in May, so it's still really fresh. But the good question to ask before we turn it over to audience questions, what's the next one? What's the next?
Oh, yeah.
What's the next project? What's the next book?
Yeah. It's an interesting question because I think I do have some things like kind of already in the works. I wrote a set of essays about being pregnant and strength training, and I think that I'm going to add a couple more and like bind that up into a book, and like that'll be my next book. I don't think that I'm going to traditionally publish that. I think I will just make it an ebook and like here everyone goes, if you want it, it's there. And then after that, I don't know. I think I'm fishing around a little bit. I might go fiction. I might write a novel about, what if it were exactly this, but just like, not me, but someone else got into lifting weights.
It's about a scrappy second oldest.
Yep.
Family of 4.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm keeping it open. I think that I want to like kind of expand on the themes that are here. Like the sort of content of lifting is like that's brought a lot to the table, but I like more so the themes of like body, selfhood, like our relationships to ourselves and each other. And I think there's like a lot to explore there without the strictures of reality. That might be fun.
Awesome. Okay, my questions are done. Now I'll turn it over. So I'm going to come out there. If you have a question you'd like to raise your hand, I can bring you the microphone. And for the next 15 or so minutes, you can ask Casey some questions.
Yeah.
Who would like to start?
Don't be shy.
I know I set the bar super high for questions, but.
Hi, Casey.
Hi.
So my question, I just read Naomi Klein's book, Doppelganger.
Yeah.
And part of the book was going into the kind of discussion of like alternative wellness.
Sorry, say that again. I can't quite, a little closer.
Of alternative wellness.
Okay, alternative wellness.
And my question is just what your relationship has been with the wellness community, and how you stay focused when there is such a spread of like disinformation.
That's a good question. I think coming from a science journalism background, I think I'm pretty good with discerning what seems real and what's not real, but it's also like most of it's not real. Like if it's real, we would be like really excited about it. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I think that I have a tenuous relationship with like wellness as a like community or topic area. I mean, I've kind of started to pull back a lot on social media, like use and posting over the last couple of years, in part because that's like, I mean, I think it's interesting, first of all, that like wellness and social media are sort of like one-to-one in people's minds now. And like people keep, in the course of this, people keep like calling me an influencer, and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I don't know. It's, to me, it's like, that's like somebody who posts on social media. Is it somebody who incites people to do something at all? But then it's like, if you write about writing, are you a writing influencer? Like, I don't think we use that label in the same way that we do in relation to wellness. It's like, if you talk about health at all, I don't know. It's something that I turn over in my mind in the middle of the night, you know. But I think that I don't know, I'm so sensitive to what I was kind of like incited to believe about health, and like had to have this like negative relationship with myself, that I am, I try to remain like super conscious of what I'm inciting other people to do, and trying to not do anything that I don't think is like actually helpful. I mean, I think I'm just trying to keep it real with everybody, and like let people. Another thing is, I think I was saying this last night in Minneapolis, where it's like, the nice thing about the internet now is you can kind of like set up what it is you want to say and be yourself, and like let people come to you. It's like, if you want relentless growth, then the pressure that you get is sort of to like widen your message, you know, and like try and bring more people in, and like but that like ends up diluting a lot of things. And I don't care about that. I'm just like, I just want to say what I want to say. Whoever's ready to hear it can like come to me when they're ready. And I don't think it's a good thing to like try and make people hear you when they're not ready to hear you. Like, I don't think that's ultimately very effective. And kind of one of the only ways to do that is like make them feel bad, which I don't want to make anyone feel bad. So I'm just doing it the way that I feel like doing it.
Anybody else have a question?
Hello.
Hi.
I would really like to hear more about the coaching aspect of this. What
Okay.
got you into finding a coach at some point? Because you started off by yourself going through a lot of this, eventually getting a coach, and then how did that help? What things were you learning from them that you weren't getting on your own?
Yeah. So about 4 years into lifting, I started going to a gym that had like a coaching staff just as part of the overall structure, where it was like, just by being a member, the coach would like write you a variation of like their team programming, basically is what they call it. And they would have kind of almost office hours of like, the coach is there, people are at the gym. If you want feedback on a lift, he'll like come watch you and be like, here's what you're doing wrong. And so I never like engaged like a one-on-one personal trainer, one-on-one coach, but I think I just like maybe at that point was ready to try someone else's programming, because I had been doing it all myself, and it's like it can get tiring or like old to like have to think of everything yourself, to like think of new things. And I think I'd sort of run out of stuff to like that I knew of to keep advancing. And then once I came to him, it was like he knew all these other ways of programming that I didn't even know about. So it was like, oh, I'm learning all this stuff. So it was like kind of feeling like I had hit my limit of what I could do or what I knew about or could, figure out on the internet or through books that I could read about programming. And he was able to add to my programming and pointed me to new books, and just sort of upped the game.
All right, we have time for a couple more.
Hi.
Hi.
I think a lot of people could read this book and take away the perception that you love lifting weights more than anything and you want to do it all the time for the rest of your life. And what is the reality? Like, are there times you just are like, I do not feel like working out, or I want to do something else?
Yeah. I'm sort of surprised to hear you say that, I guess, but I understand it. I think that, well, part of the issue is that, like, except for the last chapter, the book kind of ends in 2018, and now it's 2025, so it's been several more years. And I think in 2018, I was like much more invested in like progress still and like getting stronger. And now I have a much more like measured relationship with lifting, maybe, or like I'm more in it for what it brings to my life of like I sleep better when I do it, or I don't feel as like bound up in my body. And it's like, I put it to somebody recently, is like, it's the form of exercise that I hate the least, sort of. So it's like, even on days that I don't feel like working out, it's like one of the easiest things to conceive of doing, or that I know I can do a version of it that will feel like achievable. But yeah, I lift like twice a week, and it's like nothing really heavy. Now it's more about like what injuries are having a baby bringing to my body that I have to sort of undo. It's like when even when you like feed a baby a bottle, I end up like this, and it's like now I'm all tight on one side, and I'm trying to do stuff to like unclench these muscles. So it's constantly evolving, and it's much more casual now, I would say.
All right, anybody else? We like to get it on the...
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can't hear it if...
I'm a teacher, so I can yell if I have to. So I haven't read the book yet, so I just want to preface that.
How dare you?
I had to come to see if I wanted to.
I hope you were convinced.
The subtitle is How I Escaped Diet Culture and Gained the Power of Lifting. And I was just wondering, as an athlete in your youth, to now, being an adult, like how did you escape diet culture? Like, how has diet culture shaped your relationship to movement, and like how has that changed now that you have quote unquote or actually escaped?
I have to say, if somebody wants an answer to that question, you will enjoy the book so much.
I think I will.
But to sort of sum it up, I mean, it was a process, and I think that what is interesting about the book is not that I'm not trying to use diet culture as like a sort of stand-in closed box set of words, but in the book I'm trying to unpack like what was it that shaped my conception of diet culture, like how exactly did I think about that? Like, how did that manifest in my life? Like, what exactly did I think about food? What exactly did I think about athletics? And like, at one point I realized as I was writing the book, like, this is not something I really knew before the process of sitting down and trying to like write it out, was that I didn't want to have to think about my body. Like, I had this sort of sense that, or a type of shame that I carried that was associated with like, if I'm trying to do anything for my body, it's like because I want to be hot, because I feel like bad about myself and I'm trying to change myself. And I was like, but that's not really true. That's like not really how I feel. What I feel is like pressure from everyone else that if I'm not as hot as I can be, I won't be taken seriously. I don't feel like I really care about what I look like. I just want to be, what I want is to be smart. I want to be able to pay attention to like my thoughts. And, but I feel like I have to like sort of minimize, but also maximize my body. Because I mean, I'm trying, like, ultimately you realize this is like an impossible double-edged sword thing where it's like, you can neither minimize yourself enough and like draw all the attention away, nor can you be like, oh, you're like so attractive that now I'm only listening to your thoughts. Like, it's almost the opposite of that. So, but I realized that it's like, why am I thinking about this so much. Like, what did make me think that that's the way that I have to deal with my body? And that leads into my personal background and, stuff that I saw in magazines and TV, but also like, what about my family life constructed this? And I think that it was important to me, to go back to one of the first questions, like, as much as it's annoying as a woman to have to like insert yourself personally into something in order to have credibility, I think that I had not seen in any way that satisfied me a book that was about like disordered eating and exercise that really tried to excavate at the level of like family psychology and like personal trauma, and then also interweave that with like, how does that shape how I receive stuff that's in magazines? Like, why am I taking instruction from magazines? Like, I think in theory, if I were a whole, or like a sound sort of like person in my brain, I would not be seeking instruction from these things, and yet I am. Why is that? Like as far as the process of like escaping diet culture, some of it was like realizing that stuff. Some of it was finding something that allowed me to fall backwards into a better way of thinking about things. And that was what lifting was, where it sort of enticed me with the pursuit of like, I was like, oh, this will be finally the thing that unlocks the hotness that I want. But then I tried it, and it allowed me to have a relationship with my body that I didn't know was possible. And that was so much better, felt so much better like day to day, but also like in the grand scheme in a way that you will see play out in the book, should you read it. So yeah, it was a process, non-linear process, and a lot going on, but I tried to get it all in there, I guess is how to sum that up.
Casey Johnston's a physical education on sale now at the table right out here.
Yeah.
We have time for one or two more questions, and we'll.
Depending on how long my answers are.
This is a quick one. Hi, Casey. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I was just curious if you had anything in your pop culture repertoire, like a favorite movie or TV show about body transformation. Because I feel like recently, like with The Substance, Love Lies Bleeding, there's been this kind of, you see the ugliness, you see the grit. Is there anything that's personally inspired you or made you go, whoa, that you can think of recently?
Nothing that I can think of that's super recent. I'm like, what sports movies do I even really like? I don't know. The thing that's leaping to mind for me is are folks in here familiar with Pumping Iron, the movie? Arnold, show of hands. 1, 2, that's it? 3? What? Okay.
Available from the downtown library.
Hold on to your skulls because your brain is about to explode. There's a documentary from the 70s about it centers on Arnold Schwarzenegger before he was really famous. This was like the thing that sort of sold everyone on him and why he became so famous. And you'll see, like, to see him in movies, it's kind of like he's a bit of a mixed bag. Like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know. Well, we won't get into him. But like, to understand what it was that got everyone so excited about him is like this documentary about his bodybuilding, like, life and career. And it's just so fascinating to see what he's like and this like little peek into this world. And it's, I love that one. But then there is Pumping Iron 2, which is about women and similar bodybuilding competition. And there's a lot of like really interesting, like kind of modern feeling discourse in the movie where it's like, I think the women were like surprisingly self-aware for that time. It was like the, mid 80s when I think they made that one. And that they were like, I sort of grasp that everyone expects certain things of me or sees me this way or is trying to like put me in a box based on like this activity that I like to do, or like it's a trap being like a woman who has to be like attractive but not too attractive and not unattractive, like you're trying to thread this impossible needle. But I just really like lifting and I like the training and I'm, you know, into it and they like the community and I don't know. I don't want to like paint it with too like, what's the word? Put like too much of a shine on it, but it's like, it's really fascinating. And I think both movies are so good. You have to check them out. Pumping Iron is much easier to find than Pumping Iron 2. But your library might have Pumping Iron 2.
I don't want to be rude and pull out my phone and look in the catalog while I was, to make it look like maybe I was like making a dinner order or something. So I'll check right after we're done.
Okay, all right, I
maybe
appreciate
I'll catch
that.
all of you before we take off. We have time for one more question. One more question before Casey leaves us tonight. Okay, two more questions.
2 more questions. I'll go fast.
I love your newsletter in the balance of like talking about collagen and different, you know, overhead press. Like, how do you decide what to write about and do the research for it?
Well, that's not a short answer question. I don't know. I think it's. I mean, sometimes it's not. It's not like it comes easily every single week. But I think that it's just guided by. Used to be guided a lot more by what I saw like online and social media, but I've kind of moved away from that a little bit more. And it's kind of like, I don't know, what I see in the world, or like I remember something that used to stick in my mind, like when I was lifting earlier on and like what I struggled with, or the Discord, the subscriber Discord, which is associated with the newsletter, is a great source of inspiration because there's always new people in there who are asking questions and but also like talking about a very diverse array of things. Like I think I just wrote a newsletter about they were talking about clothing sizes, vintage clothing, and like how there's a sort of survivorship bias of like people will see that all of the vintage clothes that are available are small, and it's like, oh, people were smaller back then. False. The small clothes are the ones that like don't get worn as much and therefore persist, because it's like you can always wear, I mean, for many reasons, like just for one, you can only wear clothing that's bigger, you can't wear clothing that's smaller. So it's like the smaller people can wear whatever. They're kind of like the universal receivers of clothes. And the bigger people are the universal donors. And like you can't, so it's like there's just a problem of, a logistics problem that has nothing to do with like people were small then and they're not small now. It's just like, it's fake. But they talk about lots of things in there. They're awesome.
All right, here's our last question.
All right, last one.
How did you decide how brave to be in this book? Because, more of a comment, this book was beyond validating for a person who's lived in an obese body since adolescence.
Wow.
And the special hell that was the diet culture of the 90s and the early aughts. And you wrote a chapter about your mother that I had to literally put down and walk away, because holy cow, your mother and my mother were cut from a very similar cloth.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you decide to be as brave as you were?
I think it was difficult. I mean, I think I read some good advice at one point that was like, I mean, I went through so much process with this book. Like I was working on it for so many years that like you kind of get it all out there first, and then you're kind of like trimming it back. So there's like in a way versions of this book where I was much braver, but it was not actually like I wasn't at the point of like, this is it, like you're gonna share this with the world. So you have a lot of time for that like balancing act. But I don't know. I think some of it also comes from a certain amount of like dissociation of like who's really reading this. Like I think somebody asked me at one point, like, what does it feel to have a book come out? And it's kind of like nothing, because it's like it comes out, and then other than doing book events, it's like it's not like olden times where it's like you're in the town square and it's for sale in the town bookstore, and everyone's like, good job publishing your book, and you're like, thank you. Like there's just no real interaction that happens from it. So in a way, it's sort of easy to self-disclose when there's not that like instant feedback. And then I also now, I don't know, maybe I would be really second-guessing myself if I were like reading a lot of criticism or negative reviews, but I have like I'm like, I can't do it. I really have to consciously avoid it, but I have so far. So it's like to the extent that that would make me second guess myself, I've avoided it.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
We'll see you again in 2027. We'll welcome you back.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Casey Johnston. Thank you all for coming today, for spending your evening at the Ann Arbor District Library. Check out some of our brochures for everything else coming up. Big stuff this week into the end of August, and then, whoa, September. Even more great stuff. One more time. Go ahead. Yeah, so we didn't have a formal signing set, but we can figure something out. If any of you have books that you'd like signed, yeah, come on out to the literati table just out here, and we can get those signed for you.